All right, what's going on, you guys? Brian here with my AEW Dynamite recap for this week's episode, night number 1 of New Year's Smash. I'm going to run through everything really quick. So, a little bit of news concerning Impact Wrestling. They announced yesterday after the last night's episode that at Hard to Kill, Sami Callihan and Eddie Edwards will do battle in Barbed Wire Massacre 4. So that is another huge match signed for Hard to Kill, the event coming up a week from this Saturday. And of course, this Saturday night is Genesis, which is will be on Impact Plus, that will feature the return of the Super X Cup tournament, as well as featuring a I Quit match between Willie Mack and the self-proclaimed TNA World Champion Moose, as well as Jordan Grace going one-on-one with Jazz. There's a whole bunch more. But really quick, I'm going to run through everything that happened on this week's episode of Dynamite. We had SCU and the Young Bucks picking up the win over the Hybrid 2 and the Acclaim in 8-man tag team action. Afterwards, SCU made it very clear that if this is going to be their last hurrah as a team, that they want a shot at the AEW World Tag Team Championships, and the Young Bucks, of course, Frankie Kazarian on AEW Dark announced that if him and Christopher Daniels cannot win their next tag team match, that they are no longer going to be teaming together. So that is going to be interesting to see if that match actually happens. We heard from Jon Moxley, who made his return after his after losing the AEW World Title on December 2nd to Kenny Omega in controversial fashion. He made his return tonight. He cut a promo saying that he is going to make Kenny Omega pay for what he did. And of course, for those of you that remember, I have not actually watched that particular episode. I'm still way behind. I'm still in the month of November as far as programming wise, but I have not watched that one from December. But I did see clips of what happened where Don Callis got involved and helped Kenny win the AEW World Title. So that was pretty much it for that promo. We had a backstage segment setting up a match for next week with some huge stipulations. It will be Chuck Taylor of the Best Friends taking on Miro. If Chuck Taylor does not win, then he becomes Miro's young boy, protege, servant, has to do whatever Miro tells him to do. So that is going to be interesting to see what happens next week with that one. We had Wardlow picking up the win over Jake Hager. The battle of the powerhouses of the Inner Circle. Wardlow picking up the win with the F10. We had a Private Party, Matt Hardy, and Snoop Dogg promo that saw Matt Hardy present Private Party with some contracts that they needed to sign, apparently to make Matt Hardy their manager or something like that, or something. And he's going to be getting 30% of whatever money they make or something like that. So that was it for that one. We had the weigh-in for the TNT Championship match that'll be taking place in the main event next week between champion Darby Allin and The Machine and current FTW champion Brian Cage. This basically was a weigh-in. They weighed both combatants. Brian Cage came in at 272. Darby Allin came in at 170, so it's going to be a 102-pound weight advantage for Brian Cage. Before anything else could happen, here the lights go out. Here comes Sting, and they haven't explained what the alliance or partnership or whatever is going on between Darby Allin and Sting. So that was it for that. We had a MJF and Jake Hager backstage segment where MJF was basically just trying to be cool with Jake Hager, telling him that, listen, you should be proud of yourself, man. You're undefeated in MMA. You're a winner. people are scared of you. You're intimidating. You're strong, and then Jake Hager and MJF wound up fist bumping after Hager's like, you know what? Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I appreciate that you came. You were looking out for me. So that was it for that. I don't know. I feel like there's some kind of ulterior motive with MJF. Like, he's a part of the inner circle with Jericho and all of them, but I feel like they're building up to where MJF is going to want to be the leader of the inner circle or something like that, because I don't know, it seems kind of, sorry guys, but yeah, I feel like that's going to happen down the road, or that's where this story of MJF in the inner circle is going. So, but moving on, we had Jurassic Express and FTR backstage interview promo. Marco Stunt talked about what happened last night on Dark between him and Brody Lee's son, -1. He then said that Jurassic Express have goals of becoming the AEW World Tag Team Champions. They would be interrupted by FTR. After talking down to Marco Stunt, calling him a loser, he basically came back and said, you know what, next week I'm taking Luchasaurus's place, so it's going to be Marco Stunt teaming up with Jungle Boy to take on FTR. That is another huge match for next week. We had Cody Rhodes with Snoop Dogg in his corner. He defeated Matt Sydal in what I thought was an okay match. Afterwards, Serpentico and Luther, the Chaos Project, they would go after Cody and Matt Sydal until they got the advantage. And then Snoop Dogg would get involved and hit a Snoop splash off the top rope and wound up pinning Serpentico, and Cody counted 1, 2, 3. So that was pretty interesting. Of course, tomorrow night is the debut of their new show that they're going to be judges on, the Go Big Show. So that's going to be interesting. That's going to be happening tomorrow night on TNT. Hikaru Shida, she retained her AEW Women's World Championship over Abaddon in what I thought was an okay match. We heard from Ty Conti, who apparently is in the Dark Order now, with Anna Jay and all of them. She cut a promo talking about her NWA Women's title match next week as she challenges Serena Deeb on night number 2. And then in the main event, it was Kenny Omega successfully defending his AEW World Championship against Rey Fenix. After the match, they would show footage of Backstage where Eddie Kingston, Butcher and Blade, and the Bunny were attacking Pac and Penta El Zero Miedo of the Death Triangle. Then, when Omega was going to go after Rey Fenix, John Moxley would come out with a barbed wire baseball bat. He would go after Omega. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, here come the Impact Wrestling Tag Team Champions, Gallows and Anderson. They would attack Moxley. Then Omega would use the bat on Moxley. And then the AEW roster would try to make the save. They would get taken out. Then here come the Young Bucks trying to calm everything down, wondering what the heck is going on. They would wind up super kicking Griff Garrison and Brian Pillman Jr. after they tried to grab Kenny. And then Dynamite would end with the 5 of them holding up the Bullet Club Too Sweet sign as the band would get back together, that being Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, and Gallows and Anderson, and that is how Dynamite went off the air. So a interesting and surprising finish to Dynamite as far as night number 1 of New Year's Smash. Overall, the show was okay, was decent. Nothing to complain about. I have not watched NXT's New Year's Evil, so I don't know what happened with that. I'll probably watch that tomorrow and maybe give my thoughts on that episode. My opinion on night number 1 of New Year's Smash for AEW Dynamite. I thought it was pretty good. I was surprised they did the ending with the Young Bucks and Gallows and Anderson and Kenny Omega, doing the Too Sweet. Uh, so, but it is what it is. So that's going to be an interesting turn of events there. What happens next with that, with those five, along with Don Callis, we'll have to wait and see. But this week's episode of Dynamite, pretty good. So with that being said, if you guys watched tonight's episode of night number 1 of New Year's Smash, let me know what you guys thought of it in the comments below. As far as next week, the card for next week is as followed: Darby Allin versus Brian Cage with the TNT Championship on the line. Chuck Taylor versus Miro. If Chuck does not win, he becomes Miro's young boy. Serena Deeb defending the NWA Women's title against Ty Conti. The Elite will be in action, so that's going to be interesting to see how Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks in six-man tag action. FTR versus Jurassic Express. Pac versus Eddie Kingston. The Inner Circle will reveal their plans for 2021. And the Waiting Room makes its AEW Dynamite debut. And Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, her guest will be Cody Rhodes. So that's the card for next week. So with that in mind, this has been my AEW Dynamite recap. As always, I am Brian, and thank you for watching.